Welcome to the Music Maker's Cookbook, the podcast that helps independent artists cook up recipes for success. I'm Sean.
I'm Brandon.
And for the second time in the last 4 episodes, we're finally back doing an episode together again.
Yeah, it's been busy, dude.
Yeah.
Like, both ends,
It's crazy.
It's been crazy.
Before this stretch of time, up until episode 63, only one episode did we ever need to, go solo.
Yep. Solo
dolo. But now we've done 2 of them in the last 3.
Yeah.
So hopefully we don't have to do that again for a while.
Yeah, totally.
We're working on it. You know,
Yeah.
I like talking to you more than talking to myself.
100%, dude. It's brutal doing those solo ones. And just because, you don't have anyone to talk to, you know? You're literally missing your better half, So,
I guess that's what we are to each other now.
And that's the way that I feel about you. So I was missing you on mine. And, it's so much tougher, dude. I was trying not to look at the computer screen when I had my outline up. And it was just a mess. It's a mess. So hopefully we are here for many days to come.
I agree.
Doing this together because it's been absolutely brutal lately.
Yeah, talking to yourself can be a little hard. You don't realize how fast the time goes when you are. But also, you can't ask questions. I tried asking the question that we normally do at the beginning of the episodes, and I was like, "What if your band or your artist, whatever, had a signature pizza? What toppings would be on it?" And then I'm like, "Well, now I got to tell you mine, but I have no one to talk to about it. So I just look like one of those crazy guys that likes pineapple on their pizza, and there's no conversation.
I like
happening.
pineapple on pizza too.
See, it would have been so much better if you were there.
Yeah, dude.
But we got a different one today. That
I would have gotten so hyped about it, dude. So hyped.
We actually we talked about. I remember when we were on the couch in one of the earliest episodes, we talked about pizza at the beginning of one of the episodes.
I think we did. Yeah, you're right. You're
right. Flashbacks. But today we have a different conversation starter for this episode that I want to talk about, and that being, what are some recipes that you've tried in the studio that didn't work out? What are some unique things that you let's give this a try. Let's try the sound combination or this technique, and it didn't quite pan out. And this one's going to go to you. What are some things that you've tried in your recording sessions that the engineer was like, nope?
It's a great question. Do you have any of your own off the top of your head so I can think about mine and maybe you spark some inspiration for me? I've done a lot of things that haven't worked, but I just can't pinpoint one specific one. Do you have something in mind?
I got a couple. One of the main ones I can think of is kind of a smaller thing. When I was first learning how to really record acoustic guitars, I didn't have any pencil condenser mics when I first started off.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, well, how can I just use this large diaphragm condenser to get more of the articulation out of this acoustic guitar?
Yeah.
The answer is you can't really.
Right.
It's harder to. Pencil condenser just reacts because it's smaller diaphragm. But so I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna try 57, kind of on the body underneath where the bridge, where the neck meets the body, because I saw Warren Hewart do it there. And then I put my AKG P420 on the body of the guitar. I'm like, I've seen other people do that, get a fullness from it. Little did I realize that dynamic microphone, not very transient and dark. It's got that present boost, but it's on the body,
totally.
Underneath the neck. There's no sharp attackiness there. Plus, he was finger picking.
Oh, damn.
And the condenser that has a more reactive diaphragm, even though it's a condenser, is way on the other. I'm just getting all mud. And I did not work out well. It took me a long time to get, because I re-recorded it. We're like, yep, it's good, let's move on. And then a week later, when I really dove into mixing, I'm like, crap.
Damn, dude, that's brutal.
So I had to come back in the next session. Hey, can we redo the guitars?
Totally.
Let's try something different.
Totally. Like these aren't sounding right. I mean, firstly, for me, a lot of bad mix decisions, just not really knowing what to do or how to do it, do something for the sake of doing it, if that makes sense. I think that was a really big thing with me for a really long time when I first started, and not just understanding how we hear in general and doing things that would just be the exact opposite of what you'd want to do. I know that's so lame because I don't have a specific situation in mind at the moment, but yeah, just a lot of dumb decisions, I think, that were kind of based off of just not knowing better, and then also just doing it for the sake because you saw it in a video.
I actually have an example of that.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me going and telling another story.
Please.
This is for a live situation, but we have a guy who just started working with some of our crews for our live shows, and I had him come with me to this one show where it was just him and I. I was like, okay, here's the iPad. Look at all the EQ, the compression, the settings that I have. If you have any questions on why I did things a certain way, ask me. And then you can go to the board, put the headphones on, install them, and listen to, specific what the microphone's doing. So he's going through, looking at them, asking okay, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? Then he gets to the guitars, and the electric guitar I put no EQ on it because it sounded really good. And he gets to it, and I would expect him just to flip past. But he goes and he's like, why is there no EQ on this? And it's like, because it doesn't need it.
Yeah.
But then it made me remember, like, oh yeah, when I first started, I would have EQ'd it.
Oh, totally. Just for the sake of doing it.
Just for the sake of doing it. It's like, I can make this better. No.
Yep. Sometimes still to this day, I'll fall into the trap where I'm just working. I'm like, oh yeah, let's just do this, touch this. I'm like, what am I doing? This doesn't need it. And then all of a sudden plugin goes off. You know, it's just we just get caught in our heads so much, I think, you know, when we're working on things, and it's like, when something doesn't visually look correct, because like we're trying to look for that trend, that pattern where it's like we're trying to follow, you know, because we're humans, we want routine, you know, when we see something, we want to do it, right? Yeah. And I think we just get down that line and we're like, dude, we got to back the fuck up. Like, we don't need this. We really don't need this. So,
no.
I wish I had something really specific for you, but you had 2 stories. So you kind of covered me. You covered me. Because that's a good question, dude. Like, I have a fuckload. I know I do. I just can't think of any at the moment.
Maybe we'll revisit it later on. Or if you know, tell me after the session.
Totally. I'm sure I'll interrupt the middle of the podcast and come up with something.
This thing I fucked up on. We'll pass the question on to you guys. What are some things that maybe you tried in your recording chain? If you put like this pedal here, this pedal there, to try how it would work, and sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't. Just let us know.
Totally. Yeah.
But with that being said, let's kind of move on to the main topic of this episode today, which is a continuation, not from the last episode, because as I mentioned, the last one was Solo Dolo.
Solo Dolo.
But moving on to a continuation of episode 65, which we talked about kind of the specifics of self-promotion. Go back and check out that episode if you want more of the details about like the 6 different kinds of different methods of self-promotion. Talk about what really is self-promotion versus other types of promotion, understanding what warm and cold leads are, also like one-to-one versus one-to-many marketing strategies and types. But now we're going to be talking about getting comfortable with self-promotion, which is the big hurdle to get over.
Yeah.
It can be hard to just put yourself out in front of the world, especially when it's like now everything's online. Like, you don't know who's going to see it.
Right.
And you don't want to feel like you're annoying or being intrusive, but also you still need to get yourself out there so people are aware of you.
Exactly.
And, Plus, there's just a big stigma to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a tough balancing act that I'm not good at. You know, personally for me, even before we started the episode, like, I'm terrible with doing self-promotion, and that's why we're going to talk about it today. It's tough because you can know all these things, like last episode, if you go back and check that out, if you haven't heard it yet, or if you want a refresher on it, definitely recommend going back before you listen to this one. You can know all those technical things with marketing and promotion, you know, and then you get to the biggest hurdle, which is yourself, and that can all fall apart, and it's become unnecessary if you don't try to take action on these. So we're going to try to get you a little bit more comfortable with taking the steps to take these actions, right? Yeah. And we're not going to solve it all this episode because it takes time to kind of go through this and learn how to do it right yourself and what you're comfortable with. But we're going to try to help out the best that we can, and maybe like spotting some different area points to help you out.
Well, while you're talking about it feeling uncomfortable, even if you know all the strategies behind it, taking the first step and going into it, why do you think it can feel uncomfortable for artists to do that?
I think a lot of it is just putting yourself out there and having to hear from somebody that you suck, or also that you're great. A lot of people have a self-sabotaging fear too. You know, it's like, oh, if I'm actually good at this, then maybe I could do this. And then it's like, well, that's scary sometimes because it can work in both ways, honestly. And then obviously the opposite way is the easiest one, because we've all been on YouTube comments before and seen this, and you can get absolutely crucified on the internet. You know, you can become almost like an anti-meme, you know, of yourself.
Funny roast.
Yeah, and just get torn to shreds on something that is so personal to you, which is your music. And just being able to share that and put it out is a scary thing, because you open yourself up to everything and anything on the internet. In person is a little different, because a lot of people wouldn't come up to you and be like, dude, that was just trash, you know, because like there's no barrier there. You know, they might present it in a different way, be like, hey, that wasn't my favorite, but I'm still glad it came out, whatever. Whereas the internet, there is that barrier of the username.
There's anonymity.
Anonymity.
I think of that one scene from Finding Nemo. No, I agree with that, though.
Yeah,
and also, tough. It's just it ain't familiar.
Yeah.
If you've never done it before, it's hard to take that first step of just like, am I doing it right? Am I not doing it right? That kind of can get in your head of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not familiar with this. Even if you know what you're doing, it's not familiar, and taking that first step until you get familiar with it is uncomfortable. I mean, we're all musicians and artists, and if you remember the first time you walked onto a stage, I'm sure you were pretty uncomfortable about it.
Absolutely. Yep.
I'm better now, but I used to be really, really uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens whenever you try something new.
Absolutely. And I think one of the final things of why this can be really difficult is because we're often told, you know, you have to be a little bit different, you know, on Instagram, on these social media platforms, on whatever that you're posting on. And that can be kind of paralyzing too, because then you get into be like, well, how do I be so different that I stand out, right? And that's a really tough question to ask yourself. And you can just ruminate on that for so long and not put anything out because you're just trying to be so different that you just have this clash with yourself, which at the end of the day is just like, just post.
Yeah, you
know,
can
just post.
You're completely right. Like, you can find what makes you different over time. And then also, I actually watched a video about growth on social media and promotion and like being different and all that, and just like keep posting recently. And kind of talked about like, it's not the keep posting and something will blow up, because if you just, that whole saying is like, it's vague. Like, what is blowing up? What is success to you? What does keep posting mean? There's no goal at the end of it. But if you are putting volume out, you start to figure out like, okay, well, this is more me. I like this. I don't like that. You can live in that realm of vagueness to decide the course you want to take. And then once you find out the course you want to take, then you can change. Content creation and posting and being in the public eye and making music is one of the hardest things to be in, because it is constant change, constant evolution. You can't be stagnant with it. There's also so many metagames inside of it. Spotify has a metagame, streaming has a metagame, getting songs on radio, getting merch sales, getting shows, touring. There's all different rules to all these things within this larger game. But once you find out what direction you like, what makes you unique, what people gravitate towards, then you can kind of apply it and fit it within the rules of these games you're doing with. But it was a really interesting video. And I feel like this kind of relates to
that's really interesting. Yeah. If you go back and watch it, definitely send it over to me, because I'm definitely curious and have a lot of time to listen to stuff on my drives. So would love to check it out.
I didn't even realize that this is the next bullet point, but it's a whole mindset shift of just like, no, okay, I have to now change to make this work. The whole like, if you build it, they will come thing doesn't work. The whole I'm important, look at me thing doesn't work. You have to change how you think in order to promote yourself effectively. If you're not having fun with it, you're not taking it seriously enough. Make it enjoyable, not only to you, but your fans. Understanding that sometimes when you are starting promotion, if you've been making music for a long time and you haven't really dove into it, it's not a quality issue. Your music could be just fine. So tackle that as you would creatively tackle an album or something, or a tour or merch. Like, be creative with it. How can I get it out there in a way that aligns with everything? And shifting it to, okay, what can I do to make it fit within these rules? Not, let's invent the whole new wheel. It's unique. It is different, which we just talked about why it can be kind of uncomfortable, because you're pressured to be different, but also different in a way that still fits within what works.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where it gets really challenging. You can't be too different. You can't be too the same. You have to have like a good combination of playing the game, but also in a way that speaks specifically towards you, that gets people interested, your music and your artistry.
Yeah, I think very well said right there. And like, I guess that also comes with, you know, facing criticism and the mindset shift towards criticism and failure, lack of a better way to say it. You know, you have to be okay with being able to take some on the chin, right? Because you're going to have these people who are trolling you or just come across you and say, this sucks. Once you get to a certain point, you can have somebody you can hire somebody to delete those comments for you, so you never see them. So that clears up the mental a lot, right? But more than likely, you won't have that in your back pocket, and you're going to have to face that head on. And how you deal with that is a total mindset shift, where it's like, you have to be able to see that and be able to walk away from it. I think in a previous episode, Sean and I have talked about this, where I think Sean mentioned, like, you know, you can have 10,000 great comments on something, but if you have one bad comment, you're going to think about that one bad comment more so than the other ones that are telling you that you're great. And I mean, it's even worse if you have one bad comment and one good comment, because then that's just amplified even more, right?
Well, I think it also kind of depends on the bad comment too.
Sure.
It can be devastating if the bad comment highlights something that you are already self-conscious about.
Yeah, it's definitely a magnitude thing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The closer that it gets to you about what you're self-conscious about, the more it hurts and the more you think about it. Yeah. Especially if it's something you can't change, you know, or can't change without a lot of money. You know, I'm thinking like how you look, you know, in terms of like, you know, plastic surgery, whatever, you know, like, because like people are mean, you know, they will find anything and everything to hate on you.
Especially if you're in a group. If you're in like a duo or a group or whatnot. I mean, you see it with like boy bands or like these like J-pop groups or whatnot. There's always like, they put them into groups. Like the good looking one, the funny one, the ugly one.
It's like a live sitcom of boy band.
People always just want to like put them in certain kind of boxes.
Yeah.
Fortunately, that's kind of the way it is.
Exactly.
But you can use it to your advantage if you're comfortable and confident in it.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. Yep. Just changing your mindset about the persistence of criticism is just a massive one that can aid you so far. I think once you kind of tackle that one, a lot of this becomes way lower of a barrier to get over. Yeah. This one's a tough one.
there's the whole thing, so like embracing the criticism and the failure aspect of it that we've just kind of been talking about. I think a way to kind of easily tie it in a bow is, I know,
Package this up.
package it up. I know that when I was a kid growing up and all these schools were like, it's a bullying thing, how to fight bullies and all that kind of stuff. A big thing was like, if someone calls you a name, agree to it and just watch the confusion.
Yeah.
If you're confident enough in yourself to just embrace it, that takes the power away, and then they lose interest. And also it can become, like I said, it can become part of your branding thing if you're able to work on yourself to be in a space of confidence.
Totally.
So if it's like, hey, you're in a boy band or whatever, and it's like, yeah, he's this good one, the funny one, the smart one, and this is the ugly one.
Yep. They do.
It's like, well, fuck it. You can make that your thing.
Yeah. Yep.
If you're confident with, like, yeah, I am. What of it?
Yep. Yep. Make content about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do the whole sitcom thing where you
Yeah.
introduce your bandmates and then you have like a little funny saying under the names, you know,
Yeah.
the ugly one, the funny one, you know, whatever.
Make merch of it.
Yep. Do
And-
trading cards.
Yeah.
You know, something just unique.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. And that one, it just takes the power away from them, gives it towards you. You reclaimed it. And that's the way to kind of embrace that failure, that criticism, to make it your own instead of ruminating on it and letting it kind of stop you from putting yourself out more and promoting yourself more.
And I think since you brought up a good mechanism to kind of help deal with this, I think we should bring up one that you shouldn't probably use a lot of the time, and that's just trying to fight fire with fire a lot of the time, because that can lead to a lot of bad imaging for you, unless that is your imaging where you're like a bad boy or
He's
something.
a bad boy.
But even then, it can be taken too far, especially in today's social culture. You know, and you know, you don't want anything bad to happen and that you may have been indirectly or directly caused with, that can especially lead over to legality things, right? So usually fighting fire with fire is not a great way to solve these issues. If anything, you just have to ignore it. Like I think that's like the worst case scenario, is like if you can't come up with something creative to like combat this or buy into it, right? You just have to ignore it and move on, you know? Because like responding and being an asshole back to these people is just not going to work out well for you most of the time. Most of the time, it doesn't go too hot.
No, it
to be
doesn't.
totally honest.
And we realize that a lot of this stuff is easier said than done. Just
Absolutely.
ignore it, move on, make fun of yourself.
And we're speaking very abstractly.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the end of the day, if it's something you do struggle with, if you are at a point in your career where you're open in the present eye enough, where you do get a lot of criticism, you know, we're advocates for therapy. That's
Absolutely.
a big thing that's
very
been,
much so.
I'm glad that's been just destigmatized these last couple of years.
Yes.
I think especially
If
during
anything,
COVID.
there's a stigma against you not going these days. It kind of
Kind
feels
of.
like, you know, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
you don't go to
It's like, I don't go
therapy?
to
I'm like,
therapy?
dude, no.
You don't talk about your feelings?
No.
Man, I feel hurt by that. I gotta go to therapy and talk that out. But no, like we are advocates for it. So
Yeah.
that's something that you need to do with, and you have a hard time dealing with the criticism and all the stuff, the negative stuff that comes from going in the public eye.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that, you know, another way you can kind of tackle it to kind of push through and be more comfortable and confident in yourself and what you're doing.
This is a total stupid idea, but I know there's sports therapists out there
Mm-hmm.
that help like athletes, you know, get through things. I'm wondering if there's almost like a creative therapist out there, like a musician or some kind of art, you know, directed therapist maybe. So maybe that's a thing. If that is a thing, let us know, because I'm definitely curious about that, because there's a lot of niches out there for therapists, and I'd be curious to know and see what kind of tools they have. Maybe I would like to try it just to see, you know.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Interesting little side conversation. I don't know if it's real or not. I just want to put that out there and maybe learn about it. Maybe see.
I know there is therapy that involves the creative fields, but no, I don't know if there's therapists specifically that focus in on creatives.
Right.
Or musicians or artists or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I don't either. So if you know, let us know. And if you are a music therapist,
We would
hit
love
us
to have
up.
you on the
We'd love to
podcast.
have you on the podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That'd be very, very.
Because I have many questions.
Same here.
Yeah. I'm getting hyped about maybe someone that doesn't even exist. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe if you are a therapist, maybe try to make it a thing.
Make it a thing.
Ain't no thing but a chicken wing.
Chicken wang. Moving on from that, let's kind of talk about some practical tips for independent musicians on how to, you know, get started with this whole promotion thing. Now, you know how to do it. We've talked about getting over that kind of uncomfortableness, that mindset shift. Like, you know, you're not alone. It's okay. Some ways to tackle it. now let's say, like, what are some actionable steps? What are some ways to start this?
So you gotta start small.
Yeah.
Yep. Gotta start small. Baby steps, baby. You know?
I mean, I should take out a loan for $10,000 and
You
put a
could.
second mortgage on my house.
It's not that
and just
bad.
Drop
It's
it
not
all
bad.
in Facebook ads.
Yeah, that's not bad. You know, interest rates these days, almost 8%. Not bad, dude. Like, no, terrible way to do it.
Do not do
Don't
this.
do that. Please don't do that.
It was
It's
a
not
joke.
financial advice. We're not financial.
I love how hard we're backpedaling from that statement.
Yeah.
But
Don't
anyways,
do this.
no, like,
Don't start very small. You know, take photos, good photos. Key, the best photos you can take. How about we say it like that? The best photos you can possibly take, whether it's through a friend or yourself, take those and start posting those and tell people about what you're doing and make it interesting, right? And start conversing and building some kind of warm market around you and your social media. This is one of the hardest parts is just doing it. It's so tough, dude, because you're gonna see like 5 followers on your account and be like, what the fuck is the point of doing this? And then you see an Instagram model or something that gives 30,000 likes on a post. Is like, how am I going to compete here? You just have to keep going. You have to keep doing it. And that's one of the stigmas, you know, we've kind of talked about. But you have to start somewhere. So you should start small.
Well, it's not only start small, like you said, you had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So start with a platform you're familiar with.
Yes, absolutely.
If you yourself like to browse Instagram and you're familiar with what works and what doesn't work on that platform, start an Instagram.
Because you inherently know that already, right? It's just about thinking about what works at this point. It's like, why does this work? And then sure, you can say some of it's paid media. That's valid. Sure. That it exists on every platform at this point, right? But why does certain content work outside of that, right?
There's nothing saying you have to start on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all of that all at once. Tumblr.
Tumblr, that's wild.
Not something you have to start off with. Yeah. Like if MySpace, yeah, it's still a thing technically.
It is.
So like nothing saying you have to start everywhere at once. Start small. Think about what you're familiar with, what you think you might have fun with, especially if it's a platform that you already post to already.
Yeah.
And if it's a platform that a lot of people don't use for promotion, but you can be creative with it, like, man, if you're like use Snapchat a lot, you could start with Snapchat. That's social media. Promote it at your shows, gets people involved. It's more of an engaging platform. Make it work for you. If that's what's interesting and excited for you, start small, start where you're comfortable.
Absolutely.
And once you start where you're comfortable and you're starting small, schedule consistency inside of it.
Oh, good one.
That's the next step that we think is really important to kind of getting used to self-promotion, especially if you're going the earned media or the earned crowd kind of aspect of it, where it's like I'm putting out content that people will find, they find valuable, that makes them want to follow with me and invest within me. You're going to need to be consistent so that they always know, like, hey, it's Thursday. This is going to happen. Or, hey, it's Tuesday. The podcast went out today from Youth Maker's Cookbook. That consistency built in leads to familiarity. And once again, like the whole thing of, oh, it's hard to start because it ain't familiar. The opposite side is true. Like when it becomes familiar for your fan base, they're going to keep going back to it.
Right.
Kind of comes into that. So
absolutely
plan your content to be specific, organized, and consistent.
Yep. I think that's great. You have to be consistent with this because there's so many times where when you start small, it's tough to remain consistent. And so you'll go months without posting. And that gap in between is just, it looks really bad. And you're not actually making headway or momentum onto your platform that you're posting on. And not only that, but you know, this gets brought up a lot. The algorithm of, I think it's a total just scapegoat sometimes, you know, blaming the algorithm. But in this case, the algorithm does like consistency. It does like seeing you post and be active on the platform because why wouldn't a platform like you being active on it, right? That's how they make money. So they reward you over time. Now, how much that is, and depending on what kind of content it is, that all remains to be figured out. And that changes every day, like we've told you umpteen times at this point, right? But there has to be a plan of consistency in place. And like Sean said, scheduling is really important. So you can use, we've talked about social media apps before where you can post like regular
for
content.
A couple weeks
exactly.
out.
For a couple weeks out, and they don't cost too much. There's one that really costs a lot, but you can avoid that at first. Like we said, start small. Don't bite off too much as you can chew.
Well, also, a lot of these platforms now have it built
they do.
in. Like TikTok,
They do.
you can schedule a post for 2 weeks in advance. I think Facebook and Instagram, you can schedule it for a month or so in advance or whatnot.
Yeah.
But,
which is really nice. Really nice. Gives you a lot of power to kind of plan out your content and your promotional efforts.
Yeah,
you know,
but also rolling a real quick dial in on something you said earlier. Like it can be hard when you start off when you're not seeing the numbers and the feedback coming back because people aren't aware of it yet. The also hard thing about it is the personal mindset of like, oh, nobody's seeing it. So I don't have to. I'm just gonna post it a couple weeks.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna post a couple days late, or I don't have it done on time. So I'm just gonna post it like a week. The next week, I'm gonna skip a week or whatnot. No one's gonna see it anyways because no one's watching.
Nobody cares.
It's easy to fall into that mindset.
Very
I know
much
because
so.
I have with this podcast.
I've done it with my personal stuff.
As well. Yeah, but specifically, like, even though we have each other, we're being accountable. Sometimes it's just like,
Yeah, no, totally. It's
okay. I can post a day late.
Yeah, no, it's a totally valid thing like that happens, you know, and
Must be strong, making habits
you have to be
of posting.
strong. It's like almost like it's like working out, which I know nothing about, but because I don't, but you know, you have to be consistent, you know, and it's like building muscle at this point, you know, and just being able to go back and do leg day every Wednesday, regardless whether you like leg day or not.
We don't do leg day.
We don't do leg day around here. You just have to be consistent with it because it is truly like working a muscle at this point. And you will start seeing it pay off over time. This can kind of work against you before we move on to the next one, is where you post too much and are too consistent. I've seen that plenty of times with artists too, where it's like you will post 3, 4, 5 times a day. That is typically not awesome to do because then you're just kind of spam, right? But then like let's take Instagram for example.
Yes,
probably not awesome to do actual posts that many times a day. Stories would be better, you know, like what
I used to post two things a day on our.
Oh, I'm talking like 5. Like, yeah, no, I've seen like legitimate like 5, 6, 7 posts, and it's like
things need to breathe.
Too much movement on the page, you know. And plus, you're burning up content at this point, you know, that you can really like stagger out and buy you more time, so you can focus on the things that matter most to you, which is musical endeavors, creative endeavors. Whoever's watching this. So that is kind of like the caveat to that is like be consistent, but not like annoying at the same time. Because
you don't want to overload someone's feed where they get sick of you.
Exactly.
It's like again. Which,
but like you said, it's all platform dependent, right? So like if you're on X or Twitter, whatever you call it, you can post on as many times as you want.
So conversation based,
But if you're on Instagram, that is more picture visual based, you know,
more curated. It was very curated.
Yep. And in the days of Instagram where we're constantly fighting Instagram on what is on our feed and what gets shown to us, like when we want to see our friends and we're just bombarded with random explore page tabs or whatever, it is really tough to be posting 7 times and not get annoyed by it. So small caveat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you know where you want to post, how many times you want to post. You're confident with taking a post. You have the plan. What's the next thing to do? Measure your success. Measure the steps you are doing and like what's you are getting in turn as a result of this promotional campaign. Keep track of how often you're posting, what gets the most responses, what gets the most comments, the most likes, the most engagement, what platform, if you are trying the shotgun method and posting something on multiple different platforms, find out, oh, this one gets the most activity. Let me just focus on this one for a while and, you know, kind of niche down as you grow. And then you can kind of focus on other platforms once that grows more. But just figure out the metrics you want that fit around your plan. I think it's episode 6 that we did about SMART goals.
Yes.
I highly recommend looking at that and creating SMART goals around your promotional campaign, your promotional thing. Yeah, it's still a good one. Oldie but a goodie.
It is.
So I'd recommend kind of implementing the SMART goals into your promotional campaign that you are going to now be implementing because you want to get yourself out there and get people to hear your music. And I just smacked my cable. But yeah, I would recommend checking out that episode and using that to keep track of, okay, what goals are actually good to keep track of.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's a great way to say it because, you know, I'm not exactly sure how well these platforms do these days with the analytics that you get on the native platform itself. Because I know there are a lot of trackers out there that you can also go and kind of look into. Chartmetric's one of those for like Spotify and stuff that is really helpful, but it's very expensive at the same time, right? So you can go out and buy and pay for one of these, you know, metric things. But I think like what Sean was saying is that it's really important to decide what metrics are important to you and keep track of those metrics and why they're important to you too, not just for the sake of seeing numbers and not really knowing what those numbers truly mean or how to connect them back to what you're doing. Because these numbers are extremely powerful. And if you need to take like a mini course or hire somebody to do this for you just to explain why a certain metric is more important than maybe another metric or whatever the case may be, then by all means, I think this is a good way to kind of go about it and definitely look up some YouTube videos because there are a lot of smart people out there that kind of help with this.
I was looking at my phone to try to find some examples of metrics that are good to focus on.
Hell yeah.
Because it is all, like, as you mentioned, it's platform specific. Is it watch time for videos? Is it engagement, comments, likes? Is it how many subscribers you get for your post? Like, what is your goal? What are you trying to get out of it? And the internet's kind of not really working for me right now.
No, totally.
So I didn't quite get there, but
yeah.
On
I'm
top
probably
of that,
backing up my stuff. Whoops.
it's all good.
I'm eating up the bandwidth.
But yeah, those are the actionable steps that we recommend when diving into self-promotion. But on top of that, the last thing we kind of want to end off with.
Oh, I want to mention one thing we have written down here too.
Oh, you do?
This is really good. Avoiding the trap of trying to please everybody. Oh, that's with authentic. I jumped too far ahead. Cut this out.
The last thing we're going to say is
Cut this
staying
out.
authentic. What's something that we should say about authenticity, Brandon?
I think we should avoid the trap of trying to please everybody.
Whoa, first time I'm hearing that. That's insane.
I scrolled too far. I scrolled too far.
Oh, my God. Yeah, no, it can be, especially if you're a people pleaser like I am. You want to make everybody happy, but you're not going to make everybody happy.
Nope.
So, in fact,
People will be sad.
People will be sad. You can't make a whole room happy. You can't make everybody in the club like your music, or in the bar like your music, or in the venue like your music. You can't make everyone who comes across your content like what you're doing. So niche down, focus on who your client avatar is. No, who your optimal fan is, like who your true fans are, and kind of lead the content around that, because those are people that will most push your music and want you and be excited about your growth. So focus on that, move towards that. Don't worry about making everybody happy. In fact, having a strong controversial opinion that is true to people who agree with you, like your ideal fan base, can be very beneficial.
Yep.
Like for me, we've had this conversation before. I don't like auto-tune. I really don't like auto-tune. I like mistakes in music. I don't like it when things are time aligned and pitch corrected to perfection. It's not music to me. And to some people, that's incredibly controversial to say. So
like me.
I remember when I went my big thing about auto-tune, you were like, dude, because I got pretty angry about it.
You did.
But
But you were just passionate.
Yeah. But it's things that I believe in. And I want people who want that out of their music, that more noise, like has analog noise and it has some mistakes and it emphasizes the humanistic aspect of it, is real and but full.
Totally.
And that's the people, the artists that I want to work with. So I have no problem alienating everybody who wants like a super clean, perfect mix, who wants absolutely no noise in the signal chain for the super, super clean pop vocals. I don't want to work on that.
Totally.
They don't want to work with me. So it's okay that I alienate them, so the people who do agree with the stance I'm taking feel more connected to what I'm doing. The same thing applies with your music.
Yep.
If it's sad boy music, make sad boy promotion.
Sad boy music. That's great. Yeah, no,
dive
you're
into
right,
it.
though.
There's plenty of sad boys out there.
It's true. It's true.
That's just the first example that popped in my head. Maybe not the best one to say, but
I don't think we've ever mentioned sad boy music on here, but it's 100% a thing.
And if that's you, dive hardcore into it. There are plenty of people out there who want to listen to that and want to be part of that kind of community. So alienate everybody else. Don't be afraid.
I think that's
to do
fantastic to say. There's a classic saying out there that goes, if you appeal to everybody, you appeal to no one. And that could probably not, that could not be more true. Yeah, that could not be more true.
English is hard.
You have to appeal to somebody. And it's like you said, it's tough to force everybody to like your shit when that's just not going to happen. And if you know how to, then please hit us up. We're definitely interested in knowing that. But it's just impossible to do, right? Everybody has their own interest. Everybody has their own preference of what they want to do. And you have to find the people that are right for you and your music. So.
And the great place to start.
And people have to find you.
They do, yeah. So, and the great place to start is with yourself. What are you interested in? What is authentic to you? What feels good to you? And from there, where do you go to learn more about things you're interested in? And that's where you can start promoting and start posting your stuff, because you know that, hey, if I'm going here and I want people like me to be involved in this, then this is where I need to be. Yeah. So that's just a good place to start. And
hell yeah.
That kind of concludes all the things that we're going to be talking about today. We could do a quick recap of all this, but I kind of just want to end it. If you want to go through again, you can go through and listen
back and listen to the episode.
I know not the most professional thing to do, but that's all good.
That's okay. I don't think we need to. If you want to go back and refresh, then all the information's there. That's why it's here. We don't take it down. It'll be there.
So we recommend doing that. We also recommend checking episode 6 of our podcast. We also recommend going to YouTube or TikTok, where we post short clips from these podcast episodes. It's more a digestible way to ingest food-related consumption thing. The kind of meaty details that we have throughout these episodes.
Nice.
I'm trying to dive too far into these
I like
puns,
it, though.
but okay, cool. This is why Brandon's a great co-host. We started this whole thing on food puns, and now we're doing it. We're living the dream.
Yes. Yes, we finally have manifested it.
Yeah, if you could follow, like, share this podcast with other artists who are looking to make a living in this industry, that helps us grow, which helps us make better content to give to you guys to help your careers grow as well. You know, it's a what's it called when it's a relationship that's
Symbiotic?
It's symbiotic.
Is it?
I guess so. Yeah, symbiotic relationship. But yeah, as I said, you can follow us on all those platforms: YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, any podcasting platform that you follow. On top of that, not only can you learn more about the podcast and follow them, you can also contact Brandon.
Yes, you can contact me through my website at studio222recording.com. I do mixing, mastering, recording, all that good stuff. If it's music, I like it. I work on it most of the time. We'll see. And audio too. So, but you can find out more about me, what I do there, including a portfolio. And there's an inquiry form at the bottom of my page. I prefer you fill that out over contacting me through social media because I can get back to you a little bit quicker. If you do prefer to contact me on social media, you can find me on all platforms minus X at Studio222 Recording or at _Brandon McLeod. Sean, where can we find more information about you?
Yeah, if you make folk, rock, acoustic, or blues music and you want somebody to remotely mix and master your songs, or if you're recording yourself and you want some insight on how best to record it within your environment, hit me up. You can fill out my contact form at swsrecordings.com. That's kind of what genres to specify in, and mixing and mastering is kind of what I'm purpose-built to do. But I also do one-on-one business and artist development coaching. So if you want what this podcast is, but organized and structured specifically towards you, your career, hit me up for that, and we can work together on helping you down the path of making a living in this industry.
Fuck yeah, dude.
So with that all being said, as always, thank you for joining us in this kitchen as we cooked today.
Chefed up.
Chefed it up.
Is that the end?
Are you going to conclude it?
Oh, you want me to?
I want you to.
Oh, okay. Bon appetit.
There we go.